Worldwide movement. Peace, love, respect. Big King Sadiq hollering at you one more again. Woo! All right, folks. Man, um, a magnificent day yet again. True indeed, man. Thank you all. I love you all. Thank you for helping me to catch the synchronicity again, the 555. Just to touch on that real quick, folks, we catch that synchronicity, the 555, because five by itself, and many schools of thought, those numbers in three, right? The three represents a catalyst, right? So we are the catalyst. Our forum is the catalyst for change. True indeed. So that's why we adopted that new synchronicity from the graduating from the 333, right, on up to the 555. Thank you all for helping me to catch that synchronicity. All right. Man, I'm feeling magnificent, and I hope you are as well. Word life. Sister Carrie, how are you, my dear? Thank you. There's your salute. I salute everybody who's with me. Feel free to announce yourselves in the chat if you like. Gives us an opportunity to say hi to you, say what's up, and get ready to begin this magnificent conversation as we do. You all have helped me to build this forum into something informative and powerful for all of us. A space where we can talk about things that matter and that are powerful in aiding us to shape our new paradigm moving forward for us, our families, and the future of all humanity. Word life. So every time you all deserve a salute. Everybody, I'm sending a salute to you. Sister Carrie, thank you so much for always being in here on time, dear. That means a great deal. I appreciate it. Matter of fact, you know, we got to send you a little something. She always keep it 100. All right. Today's conversation. Yet another very poignant and powerful topic. And one that I think doesn't sort of catch the eye of folks much, right? And what I mean by that is it's something that's a little off our radar, so to speak, something we just don't necessarily give thought to or pay attention to, or allow to be in the forefront of our thinking, like perhaps it should be. And that is connecting with great Gaia. So first of all, we got to back it up. Give me just 1 second, folks. Make a slight adjustment. Thank you, thank you. Had to make a quick adjustment. But yeah, great Gaia. So starting at the beginning. Say, don't make us get on a moving train, Big King. True indeed, true indeed. So, what is Gaia? Folks, many of us tend to grow to think of this planet, our planet Earth, as just sort of like a big rock floating around in space, right? And we just happen to be on this big rock that we call home floating around in space. And that's kind of all we chalk it up to be, right? I mean, we understand it's our home and all that, but really we don't give it much more thought, right? And we don't realize that this planet is a living being the same way we are. And in fact, if we stop and give it a little bit of thought, that should be obvious. For one, you don't get dead matter. You don't get life from death, right? Okay. You will not get a planet, a dead planet, to somehow become teeming with life. Think about that. This planet hosts a number of species that we couldn't even fathom. All right. Millions upon millions, likely hundreds of millions, if not billions, probably billions of species. Yeah, what am I talking about? Oh my goodness, there's likely millions of species just in the insect world, right? Let alone all of the land animals, the aquarian species, not thinking about all the bird, aviary species. I mean, it's massive. But what all of it is, excuse me, what all of it is life. And you do not get a huge ecosystem teeming with life from a dead rock. You understand what I'm saying? The planet Earth is not a dead rock. Greek goddess personifying the earth. Well, I tend to not go to the Greeks. No disrespect to anybody who's Greek, but the Greeks are historically one of the most egregious groups of individuals who plagiarize. Right? They have taken so much from the other civilizations that have, I won't even put it on the Greeks. Perhaps it is those who have come afterward who've chosen to place the Greeks on this pedestal. But there is so much that so many civilizations have contributed to the world that has been attributed to the Greeks. Now, again, nothing against Grecian society, right? Not at all. But I had to mention that is that, we just tend to attribute a whole lot to the Greeks, right? Or to Greece, to ancient Greece in particular. And more we're coming to find out that that's a bit of a mistake, that we shouldn't be attributing those things. And we have now the wherewithal and the ability to do great and detailed research to tell us the truth about ancient civilizations. But that's, again, a whole nother subject that we'll digress on another time. But getting back to talking about Great Gaia, again, folks, we have to understand this is a living planet. Everything that comes, all the life that comes from this planet is coming forth from a living source. It is not just a big rock. All right. So that I say that so that you understand and begin to cognize in your mind that you are talking about a living being. And as such, it is a living being that also has a spiritual aspect the same way we do, right? Folks, understand that your body is essentially your spirit's 3D, 4D corporeal representation of your spiritual essence. When we talk about Great Gaia, We're talking about the spiritual essence of the planet. This planet is the actual 3D, 4D, physical, corporeal expression of great Gaia. You understand what I'm getting at, right? Gaia is a living being the same way you are. All right. And it says, Google, LOL. Yes. Okay. Google will always point you to where they want you to stop at. Right? It's like they give you a bus stop, right? Just like with anything historical, if you go back and try to get into quote unquote ancient history, they'll give you a bus stop right at Egypt, right? And you pretty much won't go further than that because that is what this paradigm has shaped up as ancient history. But we realize, understand, and know that there are civilizations much older and that predate Egypt, and that there's a whole plethora and wealth of history to be gained, maintained, and learned from that time period. So that's that on that a little bit. But yeah, man, it is very important that we understand that. Excuse me, folks, that when we're talking about the earth, we are literally talking about the physical body of great Gaia, right? When we're talking about Gaia, we have to cognize and understand that we're talking about the spiritual essence of the planet Earth, right? This is important that we understand and cognize this so that we can have a clear and understood relationship between our planet, right? We have to understand the symbiosis that occurs between all of humanity and the great and beautiful planet that we have to live and flourish on, right? Now, when I say connecting with Gaia, let me take it a little bit further. Now that we've established and understand who we are, who Gaia, who and what Gaia is, and what our relationship is symbiotically, right? As we are linked on the spiritual level and on the physical level. All right. When I say spiritual level, if you want to just replace that with spiritual, however you want to look at it, right? If you want to replace spiritual with energetic, should I say, whatever terminology suits you better or is more comfortable for your understanding of it. But understand that the earth, again, is Gaia's actual physical expression, right? And that our bodies, our physical bodies, are our physical expression. The expression of what our soul, information wise, is transmitting into this world, right? All of us have a certain vibrational frequency, even down to our individual frequency that we resonate on. But again, we need to understand what we're talking about when we talk about Gaia, who and what Gaia is, and then connecting to Gaia, right? We've talked a little bit and hopefully got to some understanding of what Gaia actually is, right? And then we will talk now a little bit about how to connect with Gaia, right? The best way I would prescribe for anyone to connect with Gaia, once they first at least understand what they're talking about and what they're dealing with when they talk about Gaia and connecting with Gaia in some way, shape, fashion, or form. Once you have that understanding, actually connecting with Gaia is something incredibly rewarding that all of us can experience, right? We're talking about it again establishing a spiritual or energetic connection with great Gaia, right? Um, and the best way that I've personally found to do so is, first of all, step number one, get outside. Not that you cannot, um, in some ways, connect with Gaia, but first of all, you need to get outside and get to Gaia rather than be separated from Gaia by an artificial structure like your house, right? Um, you need to go outside. Step number one. Step number two, you need to get barefoot. You need to remove the rubber or any whatever material the sole of your shoes is made of, um, is not going to serve as the kind of conduit, right, that you would want your energy to be free flowing through, right? Um, Brother Michael in the house. What's up, family? Man, always magnificent when you come and chime in and help to build with the family. We're in here talking about great Gaia, right? Understanding who and what great Gaia is, and then understanding the importance of connecting with great Gaia, and then talking a little bit about how we connect with great Gaia. It's kind of what I'm focusing on right now. So you get out, number one, again, outside. You got to get outside, folks. You're going to connect with Gaia. Once you get outside, I recommend you not immediately, immediately, you get those shoes off. Not just the shoes, but shoes and socks. You want to be barefoot and have nothing between you and the planet from which you spring. Me and cousin. Oh, that's what's up. Hey, Leash, what's up, babe? Thank both of y'all for being in here. I salute you, brother Michael. I salute you, cousin Leash. One more again. I'm just gonna sling another salute out to Sister Carrie. And to anybody else who's chiming in. Bang! Salute to you. True indeed. Thank you. I appreciate that. Hey, cuz, what's up with you? True indeed. I hope y'all feeling magnificent. I'm truly grateful you took some time to spend with me. Yeah, man, but it is very important that you have nothing in between you and the planet and the soles of your feet. This is also why it is very important for you to get barefoot um, when you want to begin this connecting process. Folks, the soles of your feet are they are one of the most porous areas of your body, not only in terms of moisture, right, and of body temperature, but also of the electromagnetic frequency that you emit, and the other direction, not just what comes out of you, but what you receive in electromagnetically as a frequency. Your feet are very receptive. All right. And they are essentially a electromagnetic receptacle for your body. Right. You have a lot that moves through your feet. Not that I want to be getting into anything dark, but there's some aspects of witchcraft where a person would want to touch your feet, right? And that is a very easy way for them to have sort of an end to your spirituality. When I say an end, an entrance sort of, or an access to your own personal spirituality or electromagnetic, energetic spirit, multidimensional expression, right? So the feet, very, very important. And if you think about it, temperature itself that's a form of energy. Heat is a form of energy. And I would imagine most of you know that your feet is the place that you tend to lose your body heat from the quickest. So when you're outside, one of the places of your body or areas of your body that is most at jeopardy are your toes, because that's you get cold in your feet very easily. But anyway, I digress. Um, yeah, man, you want to get your bare feet onto the earth, right? Into a grassy area or a sandy area or soil, right? Whatever you prefer, but it needs to be raw earth, right? Not pavement, not wood, not, any of that. You need to get your feet on the planet, because there are some very powerful benefits that you gain by doing this. The earth, folks. Let's go and rewind back in our minds just a little bit and sort of place an image in your mind of the creative process from which we sprang. If we go scientifically, we know everybody likes to go with the Big Bang theory, right? So it doesn't matter how you view it or what you want to term it as. Um, Everything has, what's the best word? Propagated outwardly in wave form from the center of the galaxy and ultimately the center of the universe, right? Um, from the creative source outward, right? Like ripples in a wave. What about the parasite? I don't know. Hold on, brother. I'm gonna get on that in a second. Let me see what you talk about. But yeah, so when we remember that everything has pretty much been propelled outwardly through the universe, through the galaxy, such is the same with DNA, life, and everything that is a component of what the human being is. All right. Of any life. So all of that came, everything that is alive essentially in the galaxy, we'll just contain it at the galaxy, right? And we know, even though we realize there is a similar, if not the same process throughout the universe. But forward, springing forth from the center of the galaxy is all of the energy that it took to create all of existence in the galaxy, all of life in the galaxy, right? All of those light codes, right? So remember from some of the previous, I bear with me, folks, try to sort of jog your memories a bit. In previous podcasts, we talked a little bit about light and how light is the most effective, efficient, and powerful modality for transferring information, right? We talked about the fact that we receive the most important information, the information straight from the creative source through light, right? The universe and our entire existence is built upon a sequence of light codes. That's why they often refer to our galactic existence as a light matrix. Okay. But all of that is still different forms of electromagnetic energy. And those signals are electromagnetic signals that are transferred in code form through light. Okay. That light coalesces and continues to be radiated out throughout the entire galaxy from each star. Each star has its own solar system, right? And each planet within those solar systems receives that divine light from its star, where that light information that we need for all life in the galaxy has coalesced in that star. That's what the star, essentially the electromagnetic purpose of that star is to continue to radiate all of that energy that is it's programmable, the code that again builds our light matrix, which makes up all of our existence. All right. Now, each planet, right, is sort of where that information that's coming from the star coalesces and is essentially imprinted in every life form that springs forth from that planet and on that planet. All right. All of your DNA coding, all of your electromagnetic energetic coding, and all of the spiritual coding. Remember, spirit form, when we're talking about spirits, we're talking about energy, just multidimensional energy, right? And that information is relating coding as well, all coming from Gaia. Came to get from, look at the thing, from the source to the stars, from the stars to the planets like Gaia, from the planets like Gaia to each life form on said planet, right? Now, us being one of the most complex life forms on the planet, when we talk about the combination or the symbiosis of an energetic an energetic being and a 3D, 4D corporeal physical being, we have already stated that human beings are both, right? We are, in fact, the spiritual being that is housed within our 3D, 4D physical corporeal body. Okay. All of the information that it takes not only to create your body, but to sustain your body at optimal operation, at the highest level of operation for its design, you need the coding from the source it comes from, which is the planet. Remember, we receive it through the system from the creative source or the creator or God, if you wish, right? Whatever is more comfortable to you, through the stars, or actually through the center of the galaxy, which they call the great central sun, out to all the stars, and then from all the stars to each planet in each solar system, and then from the planet itself to all of the life forms on the planet. All right. So you get all of that information from Great Gaia, folks. We all come from the planet. There is nothing on this planet that doesn't come from the planet, save those few things that make it through our atmosphere from space and land on the planet. Other than that, everything is germane to this planet. All right. Now, our physical corporeal bodies already have the information set that we need from Gaia when we're born. However, your body, in case you didn't know it, folks, doesn't stay the same. Your body literally replenishes in a cycle. I forget how many days it is, but X amount of days, your body literally replenishes itself and you have a new body. Okay? Here's where you got to keep track of this. Your body will continue, even though it is continually replenishing itself as a new body, it will continue on the path of maturation in sequence. according to the cycles that your physical body passes through. We can call that cycles of time if you want, right? Days, weeks, months, years, etc. Now, your body needs, as it continues to, again, replenish itself and essentially replace and give you a new body, it needs the replenishing of the information set. Does that make sense? It's just like, here's another way to think of it, or I hope this is a good example. It's like how your cell phones every so often have to get an update. It's still the same cell phone. It's still essentially the same operating system, but it gets an update. All right. Excuse me. All right. So when your phone gets the update, it's sent throughout the system or the network to all the phones from Apple or from, whatever kind of phone you got, right? With your body, you essentially get the update from the planet, from great Gaia. Now, what do you need in order to get your phone update? You got to be in Wi-Fi signal range, and you need to have, of course, a certain amount of charge in your phone for it to be operational long enough to receive the complete update. The same thing with your bodies, right? And all of that information you get from the planet, from great Gaia. Human beings have a vibrational frequency threshold that we exist in, as do all things, especially all living things. You get your optimum operating frequency to resonate on from great Gaia. That is essentially the home signal of all living beings on this planet. Remember, we all spring forth from the planet. All right? Is this making sense to you? There is a symbiotic relationship between human beings and the planet from which we come. All right. Now, real quick, and then I'm going to jump into the chat so we can start elaborating on this conversation. I've already hit the 33-minute mark. Oh, and there's 3 people right there. 333. Word life. Love those synchronicities. All right. A couple of things about this I think are essentially very important. First of all, for our health, folks. If you want optimum health, you need to be connected with the planet. You need to have a connection of some sort with the planet, right? Every so often. Preferably as frequently as possible. I would say daily. That's what it is for me. But, as much as each individual can. One of the things particularly about that is the fact, I want to just talk quickly about the subject of our children. Folks, our children, or humanity in general, in terms of our behavior during childhood, has changed a great deal over the past couple of decades. Children have become much more closed in, much more prone to being indoors or in a vehicle or in some facility, but very infrequently are children outside. In comparison to 20 or 30 years ago, I can verify that being the case just from experience, right? I don't need a statistic or a study to tell me that. I've seen it. I've raised my 3 children. I can give a comparison between how my mother and her generation talked frequently about how they were outside, between what it was like when I was coming up and how we were outside, and how I witnessed and had to pull teeth to make sure that that's a phrase I'm just using, uh, to get my children to go outside and play. But I knew the importance of it. So they did at least get that. But today's children who are being raised very infrequently get outside, right? And there has become sort of this, I don't know the best way to describe it. You could say sort of a germaphobe mentality. However you want to classify it, there's a great reluctance in many people for themselves to get out and do something like get barefoot in the grass. They're like, ooh, no, I'm not putting my bare feet in that grass. Anything is in that grass. Right? And the same thing for the children. I'm not letting my child get barefoot in that grass. Now, I'm not my child. You being caught, whatever, or da 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 da. Okay, couple of different things. I told you we need that, folks. Physically, by us being so detached from the planet, you will notice that there has been an increase in the past couple of decades in allergies. Okay, particularly in children. Didn't I just say how we ain't been letting our children get outside? Right? Folks, when you are cut off from the environment, especially in your formative years, your body is lacking of that symbiosis that should naturally be occurring. You are supposed to be exposed to a certain amount of things in the air, right? You are supposed to be exposed to a certain amount of things that are just a part of what's in the grass or in on the earth in any environment. We are supposed to be, or it's not any environment, should I say, in a multitude of environments, we should be exposed to that in our lives. Like, quite honestly, we really should, from early on in life, be exposed to getting to the beach as well. It's part of our having the correct or a total resonant frequency that we stand on a beach. All right. Not to mention that interaction with the energy of the tide going in and out. These are interactions that naturally we should be experiencing and certainly are important for our children and their overall health. Essentially, we are handicapping them somewhat in their growth and development when we allow our children to grow up and never be outside, or very infrequently be outside, and very infrequently be in that variety of environments. That is a natural part of what children need to be resilient the way that they should be naturally. All right. Not to mention, they're not getting the opportunity to get their updates in terms of the resonant frequency of the home signal from the planet. You're denying them that as well, which might be even more important. We wonder why there's been so much of an uptick in mental disease, as it's stated, but in different forms of psychosis. Folks, it is not natural. It is not healthy for you to just be in the house all year round and not outside. We need to get outside. We need to have sunlight. We need to have a little bit of that smell of what outside is. These things have a certain calming effect in our psyche that we often lack when we don't expose ourselves to them. Why do you think singers and songwriters are so detailed in some of their descriptions of their interactions with being outside in the planet, right? And how they're able to be so incredibly detailed. I'm thinking in my mind about uh, the Osley Brothers song, that one where they talk about the scent of the jasmine in the air and how it certain time of the year it's in full bloom. Things like that. We need that kind of interaction for your mental health as well. And you need that signal from great Gaia. You need your update, right? And your children need that. All of that interaction is incredibly important. All right. We certainly got more we could talk about on this, but I'm going to jump on in this chat. Now, I got to know, Brother Michael, what were you talking about when you were asking, what about the parasite? Because I want to make sure I'm not dismissive of that. Chime back in, bro, and let me know what you were talking about real quick so we can talk about that. And with that, I want to open it up and say if anybody has any questions that they want to ask, any statements that they want to make, or any comments that they want to add to the conversation, please start to do that now. Let's make this interactive. You heard a little bit about what I think on this subject. I would love to hear what you think or have to say about this subject. Let's interact and build, y'all. Talk to me. Talk to me now. Brother Michael, what were you saying? Alicia, what do you think about this subject? Carrie, what do you think about this subject? And anybody else who's listening, what do you think about this? Because I think it is incredibly important myself. And well, not just I think it's important. I've lived long enough to have experienced and reaped the benefits of how important it is, right? I try to remind y'all every so often because, like, it really is a big deal. Not for my notoriety or my, fame in any way, or my celebration or anything of that nature. But it's important that I have defeated 5 ailments, 5 major ailments that I was prescribed medication as the solution for, 3 of which lifetime prescriptions, lifetime, the rest of my life, by medical professionals. I have overcome 5 of them without taking one pill that was prescribed to me, any injections, or having any procedures. I've overcome high blood pressure, diabetes, hyperthyroidism, chronic gum disease, and chronic back pain. And if I think a little bit more, I can probably add 1 or 2 more on that list. All right, Brother Michael jumps in. He says, the mini parasite that you can pick up through your feet. Yes, you can pick up through your feet. You can pick up parasites through your hands. You can, quite frankly, pick up parasites through any part of your body. And to be honest with you, the way most people get parasites is not from any of those means. It's through the food that you eat. Most of the parasites, and yes, the United States is plagued with parasites, right? Americans are are among the leaders on the planet in the occurrence of parasites in the population. And most of that is through the food that you eat, not any exposure just from walking around. Now, if you were for some long periods of time, be in some environment that is heavy in parasites, then of course you're opening yourself up to that. But most of the parasites that people have in their bodies are from what they have ingested. And Alicia says, I think this is a very good subject, the act of getting and being grounded. To Mike's point, since your feet are very porous, you can pick up a number of parasites and bacteria from earth and sand. Yes, that is most certainly, like I said, a possibility. If you don't, first of all, you don't want to be in an environment that is teeming with parasites, right? Um, but just from you getting out and doing like the kind of exposure to the ground and connection to the ground that I'm talking about in this grounding exercise, we're not talking about spending hours and hours bare feet out in environments where there could potentially be a high population of parasites, right? That's not what I'm referring to. Just getting out for a certain amount of time, whether it be a half an hour, um, it could be 5 minutes, right? But having some duration of time that you have that kind of exposure is essential, and it's safe to do so without any parasites. I can speak to that through personal experience and through research and studies that's out there, and would recommend free thinking individual research by anybody who may have that concern. But that is a valid concern that you raise, Brother Mike, most certainly. Carrie says, I believe in touching the earth. I love walking in the grass. Okay, word life, sis. You've been getting your updates. Alicia comes back and says, okay, thanks for the info. It's worse now due to climate change. A lot of things are changing in the environment due to climate change naturally, because we got to understand the science on this, folks. Climate change is not a new occurrence. And they tend to, politicians and so forth, that they politicize the subject so much, and they really are making it somewhat confusing for people. Climate change is a natural occurrence that happens throughout the history of this planet. The evidence of that is monumental in archaeological evidence and all sorts of areas in which we can look and see evidence of climate change happening in cycles throughout the planet's history. So climate change is a natural occurrence that has happened before and will happen. Even with the greenhouse gases, they sort of make that seem like it's a new occurrence, but it's not. But there is the unfortunate variable of human pollution, and all the ways that we are negative to the environment, right? All the things that we put into the environment that are harmful. In fact, human beings and our lifestyle are probably the greatest pollutant to the planet right now. Okay. So that is real. But all of that has, both the natural and the unnatural, has all led toward climate shifts, right? Which is two different things. Climate change, what we were just talking about, but climate shifts is where we start to see climates that are typical to a particular area shift to a new area, essentially. And the weather patterns that are typical in a specific area, we see change and shift. Quite honestly, you could just look at how much rain we've gotten here in Pittsburgh in this Not to say that we don't get a decent amount of rain, but we've hit like some record levels this year, right? And there are other places around, particularly up and down the east, where that is also the case. But that's also different examples of climate shift. So with climate shift, we have to think, how does that affect the insect and animal population, right? So there are most certainly things that will have, or that we will see in a different propagation within like the soil. Even the bacteria will even be different and will tend to reflect that in its metamorphosis, so to speak, because viruses and bacteria um, mutate frequently. That's part of their natural lifespan. And also their interactive lifespan, how they interact with the environment. So all those things are real and are concerns. We should always be mindful and be careful about being or exposing ourselves to areas where there are a lot of parasites, or we might make ourselves vulnerable or more vulnerable to parasites. But again, I have to caution you, the fact of the matter is, in a country where parasites are a really big problem, most of the parasites found in Americans comes not from their coming up for your feet or anywhere on your body in that sort of a way that they pass through your epidermis. No, they're from what you have ingested and eaten most of the time. That's the biggest concern with parasites, quite frankly. All right, anybody else got some more? Keep it coming, man. This is how we build the conversation, right? Thank you, Carrie. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Alicia, for your comments, your questions, and your statements. That's how we build the conversation. We got to talk about it, folks. We got to bounce these things off of one another, right? But yeah, it is very important that we understand, in general, the symbiotic relationship between us and the planet. That is very, very important, and is something that is not really focused on a great deal in our educational system. It's something that a lot of us in general just don't know a whole lot about, and it's something that we can correct, right? That's correct. Remember, with this podcast, one of the things we want to do is be solution oriented in our thinking, right? Um, that is one of the things that is very actionable. We can change and educate ourselves about the planet, about our relationship with the planet, about the symbiotic relationship that we share between human beings and the planet. There is a wealth of information there, and much of it might be new to a lot of us, right? Because we don't really broach that subject readily, or um, or we do it infrequently just because it gets that kind of a focus in our society, right? It's one of those things that should be mentioned more often, that we should be 100% should be mentioned to us by our medical professionals, and many don't, right? But it, again, our understanding, our information based on that is something that is correctable. That is an actionable thing that we can go out and do free thinking research and learn more about the relationship between human beings and our planet. It is a symbiotic relationship that is very important and very powerful. Now, there are also, when you go into studying that, you'll likely also learn a little bit about what Gaia gains from human beings, right? It's a two-way street. Um, that's a whole nother podcast. I don't know when we might get to that, but anyway, that is something that you'll end up coming across in your efforts to learn more about the relationship between human beings and the planet, right? Is not only what we gain from Gaia, but what Gaia can gain from us. Um, but man, the fact that that's what excites me solution wise, the fact that I know there is so much information out there that whenever we have a moment, we can all stop and do a little bit of that free thinking independent research to learn more about so that we can put into practice effective ways of connecting better with the planet from which we come, right? Making sure that we are connecting with great Gaia, getting that update, getting that home signal, getting all the things that we need from nature. Folks, as a species, man has become too cut off from nature. We need to reclaim that. Many of us are, but that is a theme that we need to keep alive and vibrant. It is very important for man to become more to become and to reclaim the level in which we once had our connectability with the planet, with great Gaia, right? We need to reclaim that, and many of us are, and I want to continue to support that theme and to propagate that theme through as many people as possible, right? Because that is incredibly important for all of us as human beings, and certainly very important for the young human beings in the developmental and formative years, our children, right? Um, yeah, man. Now, again, Big King ain't telling you to get out there and slosh around in a bunch of mud with parasites teeming from when I that's not what I'm saying, folks. Always be cognizant of your environment, always be cognizant of what you're doing and where you're doing it. But in some way, shape, or fashion, you need that connection. You need that. True indeed. All right. Anybody else got any? Hold on. I've seen some different looking worms around lately, even in my yard. I wouldn't doubt it. There are folks actually new species that are being discovered as of late, right? And again, what Carrie's referring to is reflective of the climate shift that I was talking about, right? As the climate shifts in the area in which we live, we will notice different things living where we live, right? Because we ain't moving, but the climate didn't move. So new things are moving in with the climate, and we're still here in the same spot. So we're naturally going to notice some new things. Um, that's a natural part of the process. True indeed. True indeed. All right. Thank you, Carrie, for noting that. Anybody else have any other uh, comments that you want uh, 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 to add, statements you want to make, or questions that you want to ask, so that we can continue to build this conversation? True indeed. I know that it's a very important one. I think it's fascinating. Um, and in that, I'm gonna speak really quick about that getting back to nature theme, and about where I was going with that other point I was starting to make in the five ailments that I've conquered without the intervention of big pharma and the recommendations of the medical industry. Um, a big part of that is my connection to nature, right? A big part of that. Adjusting my diet is a big part of that. Getting back to natural things, right? Um, so I say that to say that our relationship with nature can be very beneficial in some very powerful and tangible ways. And those are certainly some, right? All right. Anybody else have any other? And by the way, yes, the disclaimer, folks, I'm not a doctor or medical professional and don't claim to be, but I can most certainly relay to you my own personal testimony about what I have experienced and witnessed, and know to be true from my own personal studies as well. So I love the outside, would love to say in the woods, or I think you mean stay in the woods. Okay, word life. Um, get closer to nature. True indeed. Yeah, man. I've had some of the most profound um, spiritual experiences while I'm in connection with the planet and while I'm in an area that is a very naturally beautiful area and environment, and it is very soothing to your mind and to your soul. Certainly, um, it is very important, folks. Human beings have become far too disconnected from the planet, and we have to reclaim that. Your peace of mind, yes, true indeed, true indeed. Um, so many have even written and sang about how they've gained peace of mind through being in beautiful um, outdoor environments and beautiful natural settings, right? True indeed. True indeed. Anybody else got anything to say? Thank you, Brother Michael, first of all. Appreciate that. Cut phones off and just chill. Yeah, man. Thank you for that again, Brother Michael. That is a very important point right there. The intercession of all of the devices and the tech and all the things that are not natural that we have in this society learned, grown, and become indoctrinated to be so constantly attached to, right? Um, that we have made ourselves far more attached to those unnatural things than we have to the very planet from which we come. And again, that is part of the indoctrination of the agenda set forth by the socially economic elite and those who have established that old paradigm and the direction it was headed in. But we're breaking out of that and learning and reinforcing, and that's part of what I wanted to do with this podcast today. This episode is to not just talk or teach about, but for us to reinforce the importance of that connection and that symbiotic relationship that we have and share with the planet, and certainly with the planet's spiritual essence, great Gaia, right? And I would add, folks, there's a certain level of respect that in general humanity once had that we have sort of veered away from. And I think personally that it's very important that we reestablish, reinforce, and continue to push out that the importance of that connection, right? All right. Excuse me. All right. Oh, another comment. We got Brother Michael says we all need to get away, stay at night in the woods and away from life. Yeah, man. Yeah. Um, Often I've heard of people experiencing what is referred to in spiritual or esoteric circles as a night of power, right? I've even heard different ways of referring to um, uh, this process when it is a difficult one is like the dark night of the soul. But the night of power concept in general refers to how, first of all, I don't know if all of you know, but your pineal is most active at night, right? You as a human being in general are most multi-dimensional at night. So your opportunity for spiritual experiences and spiritual growth quite naturally are often most readily available at night. All right. And the night of power refers to when an individual has um, a very deep and powerful introspective meditative process that sort of happens either through prayer or some other form of meditation, just in self reflecting on a very deep level that you experience at night, and all that you can go through during the course of a very introspective, powerful, and spiritual night. True indeed, true indeed. And a lot of and you your environment is a big um factor in that, right? And can be a very, very powerful factor in spurring that on. So to do so in a natural environment, like out in the woods or maybe on a night on the beach, something like that, very powerful indeed. Good point, Brother Michael. Thank you. Thank you, man. Anybody else got any comments or any comments you want to add, questions you want to ask, or statements that you want to make? Come on with it, man. I love these conversations, y'all. Thank you so much. Truly, this is beautiful just having the conversation and then for us to be able to come together like this and share in this together. There's when two people get together and they have this kind of an exchange, there's a third energy that is produced. And when it's more than two people, that third energy only amplifies and magnifies, and it has a great deal of benefit spiritually for us as well. So thank you all for this forum. Why you changed the time to 5:55? Okay, so I was talking about that in the onset of the podcast. We used to be at 3:33, which in numerology, or at least in many schools of numerology, is representative of the catalyst, which is cool. We were building a catalyst in the development of this season of the podcast, right? And then I felt the energy get to a certain point where we needed to transcend that to a higher level. And we moved to the 5:55 synchronicity, which is symbolic of change in many schools of thought of numerology, right? But you're talking about 3-5 is symbolic of change. You're talking about 3-5s. Again, the 3 is the catalyst. So we're talking about the podcast being a catalyst for change. And that's certainly the synchronicity, the profoundness of that synchronicity that we wanted to catch. Word life, true indeed, true indeed. We are always tapping into connecting with and expressing through each of ourselves our connection to and aspects of our higher power. Yeah, man, true indeed, true indeed. And just so you know, we're every time that we get together and have these podcasts and these conversations, on some level we broach the veil, right? And there is certainly a great deal of interest and observation even that goes on from the other side of the veil of this very podcast. This is just a little esoteric information that I wanted to drop on y'all real quick. Little something esoteric I had to drop on you. True indeed. Man, Well, you know what I'm about to say. Once again, this has been a magnificent conversation yet again. Thank you all. I appreciate you all tremendously. Um, Anybody else have any other comment that they want to add, question they want to ask, or statement they want to make? I ain't got to run out on y'all just yet. If you got something else you want to say, let's talk about it. True indeed. All right, I'll give it another few seconds, another 30 seconds or so. In fact, in a moment, we'll be coming up on 1 hour and 11 minutes. That 111 is another synchronicity, right? One always represents the beginning of a cycle, right? Or rather, should I say, the start of a cycle. The 9 often represents the birth of a cycle, or the constructing of a cycle that will be newly launched. And 1 is that first step in the cycle, right? Also, in certain schools of thought of numerology, 1 represents knowledge, right? And many would say that knowledge is often step 1, right? Knowing is half the battle. I took that from G.I. Joe and them from back in the day, y'all. I used to watch G.I. Joe after school. They used to say that, but that's a profound statement that they used to make. Knowing is half the battle, because it truly is. Once you know, all that remains is action, right? All right, folks, we're at the 111 synchronicity. Brother Michael come back in, said, what up? Think about what's going on in the world now. Thank you, Sister Carrie, for saying it's a great session. I will touch on that real quick, Mike. Man, there is a lot. You can wait till next time. LOL. Well, if you want, we could talk about that in next session, but I have kind of a general thing that I have mentioned throughout several podcasts, which is just that right now, thank you, Alicia. I appreciate that. Thank you so much, dear. Which is just that there is a great deal of turmoil and a lot of things sort of spiking up in the world right now. In fact, you should check out some of the short videos that I made recently. But I talk about how this flaring up is just that. It's drama that the negative, dark, low vibrational frequency energy, which is actually dying off of the planet right now. But as it's dying off, it's kind of going out like fussing and fighting, and you see that drama expressed through people, excuse me, particularly world leaders or people who are a part of that cabal. So you understand there's the cabal of socially economic elite globalists with their factions of shadow governments that exist, elements of these shadow governments that exist within virtually every government around the world. And those factions are responsible for drumming up a lot of these military conflicts and a lot of the drama that you see in the world right now expressing itself. But again, it's still an expression of that energy that is dying off of the planet. No, the cycle's not just repeating. And this is something that I was talking to somebody about. Cycles do repeat, and history has repeated itself in many ways cyclically on the planet. But we're kind of leapfrogging into a new cycle, right? And that's what those energies that are being so dramatic right now and that are exhibiting that drama in violent ways, unfortunately, that is what they don't want to see. What they realize is actually happening. This is why they're acting out, because they realize it's occurring, that we are shifting into a whole new cycle altogether, one that doesn't support the old paradigm, but that is energetically supportive of the new paradigm. the one we're building every time we get together and build on forums like Built with Big King. Uh, High vibrational frequency paradigm, one that we like to say exudes peace, love, respect. True indeed. Um, yeah, man. Thank you so much, though, Michael. I appreciate all your input, man. All of you, Michael, Alicia, Carrie, anybody else who has chimed in today, I appreciate all of y'all. Thank you. I love you. Please know that. And this all means so much to me, and certainly it is something that all of you make possible. Every time we get together and have these magnificent conversations. So thank you all, truly. I mean that so vehemently. I love you all. I appreciate you all tremendously. Please tell everybody, come on in, invite more people into next week's podcast. Let's try and ramp the numbers up a little bit, right? Tell everybody you know, tell some folks you don't know, right? And certainly, please tell folks about supporting the worldwide movement, peace, love, respect, right? The put a couple of things in the chat here. My Rumble channel, rumble.com, again, is BKS Light on rumble.com. All right. And so please, if you haven't already, please go there and subscribe. I really only need just a few more subscribers. I think like 15, something like that, 15 or 20 more subscribers. And they're going to monetize that channel, which is a big help. And keeping the worldwide movement going, keeping me going, right? So please do that. Please invite other folks to do that. And let's well, again, we're only talking about 15, maybe 20 folks, and we get that done and accomplished. I'm only 15 or 20 subscriptions away from getting to 700 on this my main channel on YouTube. So again, please, folks, if you haven't already, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Please tell everybody you know and folks you don't know to like, share, and subscribe. Also, this is something sometime during this week, I'm going to try to pin it on the front page of the YouTube channel, or at least put it in there as a link. But that is my Cash App, which is, if I'm not mistaken, $. I don't even use, I'm still new to it and using this. So let me check and make sure I'm not putting wrong information up here, folks. Whoop. 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 All right. Let's see if we can get that information real quick. I believe we can. Yep, there it is. So it's $ Big King S.2. Okay, cool. It is $ Big King S.2. 11. Right? Yeah, we got that right. That is the Cash App. Okay. Please share with everybody, folks, that it is a big help if you go out and buy my books, right? Both available in paperback and ebook form. The first book also available as an audio book on audible.com, right? The first two available on amazon.com. And by the way, again, if I haven't announced that, folks, the first book, Peace, Love, Respect, This is the New Way. through the Library of Accessible Media has been made a part of the National Library of Congress. I was very pleased, happy, and excited when I received that information. Um, got the news a little while ago. I don't know if I shared it or not, but in case I didn't, I figured I would. But yeah, my first book is in audio version, a part of the National Library of Congress through the Library of Accessible Media, right? And that's very important because that's for folks who may be blind or have some other reason or something that is preventing them from being able to hold a book and read it. So they need an audio book, and that is made available for millions of Americans. In fact, millions of people around the world through the United States National Library of Congress and their Library of Accessible Media, and I'm a part of that, which was great news. So I'm very happy about that. But yeah, please invite people to buy the books, whether it be the paperback, the ebook, or the audio book. Please, anyone who is has the wherewithal and is willing or wanting to go ahead and contribute 50 cents or $1 or $2 or whatever you want straight to the Cash App, go ahead and do that. And anybody you know of who might want to do so, please let them know about the Cash App. And again, reinforcing the BKS Light. I'm this close to that monetization there. But we want to keep growing and expanding. We ain't going backwards. We want to catapult and surge powerfully forward and make sure that we're continuing to grow and prosper. So those are ways that anybody who would like to can contribute to and help support the channel and in general, the movement, the worldwide movement, peace, love, respect. So I thank you all again, man. This is magnificent, truly. I don't know how exactly else I could say it. This is magnificent, and I appreciate you all. I'm grateful to you all. I thank you all. I love you all, and I'm looking to see all of y'all and a whole bunch more next week at 5:55 Sundays at 5:55. Catch the synchronicity with me, man. All of you, I thank you. I love you. I salute you, all of you. And until next week, we're going to continue to build the worldwide movement.